I remember that fateful night in rural Alabama. As the wind howled through the trees, my friends and I gathered around the campfire, eager to hear the local legends. Old Man Johnson, with his shaky voice, began the tale. Years ago, there was a dilapidated mansion deep in the woods. Locals said it was cursed by a vengeful spirit. A family had moved in, but strange things began happening soon after. Objects moved on their own, eerie whispers filled the air, and the family's youngest child vanished without a trace. People believed the spirit took him. One stormy night, a group decided to investigate. Armed with flashlights, we ventured into the woods. As we approached the mansion, the wind carried unsettling whispers. The air grew colder, and our breaths fogged up as if someone or something was watching. Inside, the air was heavy, and the rooms were frozen in time. Paintings on the walls seemed to follow our every move. One of us swore they saw a shadowy figure at the end of the hallway, but when we turned, it was gone. We reached the basement, and a bone-chilling gust of wind extinguished our flashlights. A voice echoed, "Get out." Panic surged through us as the ground seemed to tremble. We rushed towards the exit, but the doors slammed shut. The voice grew angrier, and a sinister laugh filled the air. Desperate, we searched for another way out, discovering a hidden room with a portrait of the missing child. As we gazed at the portrait, a ghostly figure materialized before us, the vengeful spirit. Its eyes glowed with malevolence. It pointed to the portrait and let out a blood-curdling scream. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, and the walls seemed to close in. In a final act of desperation, we screamed the child's name. And then, silence. The spirit vanished, and the mansion stood still. The doors swung open, and we stumbled out into the night. The curse was lifted, they said, and the mansion crumbled away. To this day, I can't forget the terror we felt, and the haunting voice that echoed in the darkness. The fire crackled, casting eerie shadows on our faces. As the story ended, we exchanged nervous glances, wondering if the spirit still lingered in those woods. Growing up in rural Alabama, I had always heard whispers of strange occurrences and eerie legends that had been passed down through generations. The atmosphere of the place was such that even the warmest summer evenings seemed tinged with an inexplicable sense of foreboding. But it wasn't until that fateful night in my 20s, when I experienced something truly terrifying, that I understood the depths of those eerie tales. It was a sultry July evening, the kind that made the air heavy with humidity and the sounds of cicadas chirping in the distance. Being a lover of nature, I decided to take a leisurely hike through the dense forests that surrounded our small town. Armed with a flashlight and a backpack filled with essentials, I set off into the woods, stepping onto the narrow and worn-down trail. As I delved deeper into the wilderness, a strange unease settled upon me. The usual rustling of critters and chirping of birds seemed unnaturally silent, leaving only the sound of my own footsteps to fill the void. Still, my curiosity drove me forward, determined to explore the mysteries that had plagued this land for generations. The moon, swathed in an ethereal glow, began to cast eerie shadows upon the forest floor. Suddenly, an odd rustling broke the silence. I halted, my heart pounding in my chest as my flashlight illuminated a pair of glowing eyes staring back at me from the underbrush. It was a creature unlike any I had ever seen before, a grotesque amalgamation of a deer and a wolf, its matted fur a sickly shade of black. Instinctively, I took a few steps back, careful not to agitate the beast. But as I did, its piercing gaze locked onto me, its eyes filled with unadulterated malice. A guttural growl escaped its throat, sending shivers down my spine. In that moment, I felt an inexplicable connection to the legends of this land, the tales of mythical creatures and cursed beings that had haunted the dreams of countless villagers. As if sensing my fear, the creature lunged forward, its deformed antlers gleaming menacingly in the moonlight. Adrenaline coursed through my veins as I turned on my heel, sprinting as if my life depended on it. Branches whipped against my face, thorny underbrush tore at my clothes, but I pressed forward, propelled by a primal need to escape the clutches of that unholy creature. Fear drove me blindly through the woods, my heart pounding like a drum. I stumbled upon a clearing, my breath ragged, but the creature was nowhere to be seen. Exhausted, I collapsed onto the ground, my mind swirling with the terrifying encounter. Gradually, the silence transformed into the peaceful symphony of nature once more, and the moonlit clearing seemed to offer solace rather than dread. As dawn broke, I cautiously made my way back home, unable to shake the events of the night before. No one would believe my story, I thought, dismissing the idea of sharing my encounter with the villagers. But whenever I returned to the forest, an untamed wilderness that had once held so much beauty, I couldn't help but feel the lingering presence of something sinister. To this day, the creature that chased me through the Alabama woods remains a haunting memory. Legends continue to swirl, stories of enchanted forests and cursed creatures passed down through generations. It is a reminder that the shadows around us may hold mysteries beyond our comprehension, and that sometimes, it is better to leave those secrets undisturbed. Title: Moonlit Shadows of the Bayou. As a young child growing up in the heart of rural Alabama, I was surrounded by the eerie and mystical tales whispered amongst the townsfolk. Legends of haunted houses, restless spirits, and strange happenings always fascinated me. But none captured my imagination as much as the chilling story of the moonlit shadows of the bayou. It was a warm, humid summer night when I first heard the spine-tingling tale from my grandfather, who was known for his rich storytelling abilities. He claimed to have encountered the terrifying creatures himself, deep within the murky swamps of the Alabama bayou. Although skeptical at first, his detailed account left an indelible mark on my young mind. One hot afternoon, as the sun began its descent to find respite behind the distant horizon, my grandfather ventured into the heart of the swamps for an evening fishing trip. Armed with his worn-out fishing gear, he set off on his small, creaky canoe, mesmerized by the tranquility of the waters and untouched beauty that surrounded him. However, as dusk settled in and the shadows grew longer, an unnatural stillness blanketed the swamp. The sounds of chirping insects and croaking frogs grew ominously silent, replaced by an eerie calm that sent ripples of discomfort through my grandfather's bones. Suddenly, he noticed movement in the corner of his eye. Peering over his shoulder, he caught a glimpse of two glowing yellow eyes, fixated on him from the shadows. A shiver ran down his spine, and he felt his heart race with fear. The canoe started to rock uncontrollably, as if caught in the grip of some unseen force. In that heart-pounding moment, my grandfather understood the formidable creatures lurking beneath the surface of the black water. Whispered legends described them as the bayou dwellers, said to be cursed souls trapped in a vicious cycle of vengeance and darkness. Terrified, my grandfather hurriedly cast his fishing line, desperate to leave the haunted depths behind. But the creatures had other plans. As he reeled his line in, an unseen force tugged back, yanking him towards the depths below. Panic consumed him, and he fought with every ounce of strength to free himself from their clutches. In a final act of desperation, my grandfather broke free, gasping for air. As he made it safely back to the shore, he glimpsed the creatures before they vanished into the night. The distorted, contorted forms were reminiscent of human beings, yet twisted and inhumane, with pale skin and long, withered limbs that moved with unnatural grace. From that fateful encounter, my grandfather swore never to venture into the bayou again after dark. He warned generations to come of the malevolent spirits that lurked within its brackish waters. The tale of the moonlit shadows of the bayou became ingrained in our small Alabama community, a dark reminder to heed the supernatural warnings of our elders. Though I have never witnessed the bayou dwellers myself, Their existence lingers in the collective memory of our town, as cautionary tales passed down from one generation to another. The swirling mists and mysterious echoes of the Alabama bayou serve as a constant reminder that not all legends are mere figments of imagination. In the dead of night, when darkness cloaks the land, locals still believe that the bayou dwellers slink through the murky waters, patiently awaiting their next victim. If you enjoy listening to scary horror content just like this, then hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you are updated on when I post a new video.